Welcome back to the currently unnamed podcast for gaming news. I'm your host, Kevin Harrison, returning once again to co-host.
Hey, I'm DJ. What's up?
And we're going to be talking about gaming news stories for the first week of July. Oh, and belated happy 4th of July to you, DJ.
And you too. I would give you a sparkler, but I don't have one.
So what'd you end up doing for the holiday?
Went to a Mexican place, got a margarita. That was about it. Had to listen to a bunch of douchebags setting off fireworks.
Oh, come on. It's
Very late
the
at night.
holiday now. Yeah, I was just at the beach myself. Ended up watching Independence Day. Can't get enough of Will Smith saying "Welcome to Earth."
Punching that alien right in the face.
Exactly.
Love it.
Okay, but for once again, we've actually got quite a bit of good news stories for the middle of summer. So we'll go ahead and move to our first story. A little bit more information on Halo 4 came out this week. Much smaller amount than what we had last week, but it was still something relevant for many players, especially those with older consoles. We learned this week that in order to access all of the multiplayer features within Halo 4, it's going to require an 8 gigabyte install. So this is the first time we've had really required install for Halo 4 or for a Halo game in general. What do you think about this, DJ?
Master Chief's experience is so big it doesn't fit on the disc. I really don't know. It might be for their Spartan Ops downloads. Maybe they're just saying you're going to need a bigger hard drive just to get all the new episodes in that they're going to add to the game. But either way, it seems like it works well for not Bungie, 343 and Microsoft, because I guess another piece to this is that for people that want to play Halo 4, they're going to need to buy a better Xbox or at least get some sort of something to hook onto their 360 to be able to play it.
Right. With the first generation of Xboxes that we had the arcade units, which actually came with no hard drive, and the 20 gig hard drive, which is actually what I'm still kicking around on my old Xbox, and I have so much downloaded content on there that I'm either going to have to clear away some space or just end up buying a bigger hard drive. This is the second most recent game I can think of that's had a really large install requirement. The only other one coming to mind was Battlefield 3 requiring install for HD textures and stuff like that. I want to say it was about a similar size. But I agree with your guess that it's most likely most of this space is going towards the Spartan Ops. But like I said, for people without a hard drive or smaller, this is going to be a pretty major title. A lot of people are going to have to upgrade. I know you, though. You've got, space to kill on your Xbox right now.
Yeah, I've got plenty of space, but it certainly is going to be kind of annoying for people that want to play Halo 4, and unfortunately they're just going to have to either, get an external hard drive, whether it's a flash drive or one of those big external hard drives, and just use that.
I don't know if the install will actually be able to work over the flash drive. It'd be interesting to see. I also think I could be mistaken, but I think there's actually like a maximum size that the install allows for flash drives on the Xbox. I want to say it's actually only 4 gigs or something like that.
They did say they recommended the official Xbox flash drive, I suppose.
Right.
Maybe that one doesn't have this limit set, or maybe it holds a lot more memory.
Well, no. For USB sticks that you have to insert in the Xbox, they have to be configured to a certain way, which can be done when you insert them into the Xbox. The official branded sticks, though, they're already become pre-configured. That's about the only advantage. I've actually used the USB stick, and it works fine, but the main reason it's there is for transferring downloadable content that's around a gig or size or so, and saved games. Those are the main functions it pretty much serves.
Yeah. I see. Yeah, I've actually used my my flash drive on my 360 before. I never had to configure it though, so I don't know. I guess it just depends on the brand.
Gotcha. Okay, so like I said, small piece of news for Halo 4. Next, we'll talk about another story that you found pretty significant.
Final Fantasy VII coming back to the PC. Woo, yay!
Now, for Final Fantasy VII has actually already had life on the PC. It came out, I want to say, very shortly after its release on the original PlayStation. I want to say it was maybe around the time of 2099-ish. I'm not sure. But there's some new additional content added to this release, but it's not what a lot of fans probably would be asking for.
36 achievements and the ability to boost your character. I assume you have to pay for that.
Yeah, that's probably what it's looking like. Boosts in RPGs are, in my mind, a little bit pointless, but they're apparently not that new of a thing. I can remember Tales of Vesperia I guess it came out on PS3 and 360, but I can remember on day one putting that into play that there were RPG boosts that you could buy through the marketplace for relatively cheap, but still, RPGs have some of the longest game time out of any genre of games out there, and you're essentially just making your game shorter by taking out some of the grind by doing this.
Sure. I mean, even in MMOs, I was actually reading a story recently about a guy, some point in his WoW career, bought a max-leveled rogue with all this really good gear for $9,000. Talk about expensive character boosting.
Yeah, selling WoW accounts is nothing really new, but most max-level characters.
It shows how far people will go just to boost their game.
Yeah. But the point is really moot, though, for like a single-player RPG. I guess you maybe get your achievements faster, if that's what you want. Achievements I can sort of get behind. I'm actually replaying through the Metal Gear Solid HD collection right now, and half the fun right now is getting some of these achievements that are a little bit esoteric and out there for doing things that I probably never would have tried doing before, but it's a new and fun way to sort of revisit the game.
For sure, yeah. It adds a lot of replayability to any game if it's done right. I actually just went back to Mass Effect 1, and I'm still working on that to get all of the, do this ability 75 times and so on.
Gotcha.
But even if you're not a huge fan of Final Fantasy VII being re-released just as is with, the same graphics. The good news is it's possible that Square Enix is doing this just to test the waters to see how many people are still interested in Final Fantasy VII. And it's always possible that if enough people buy this, that they'll consider doing the proper remake that everyone has wanted since that tech demo got released on the PS3.
I think it'd be asking people to buy it again and then once again after that seems like a really poor choice to be able to quote-unquote test the waters. It's clear Square Enix just really doesn't feel like making money because it's on the tip of every gamer's tongue. It's the most obvious thing that you could do with this new tech for the PS3 is to just make a proper HD, remake. Based after that tech demo, and they don't want to do that. They keep hemorrhaging money. Good on them, I guess.
I don't know. I guess they're really into Final Fantasy 13. I mean, and there's still Final Fantasy Versus 13, which I don't even know where that game is.
The last
it's
we
in
saw
development
of
hell
it,
right now,
or something. Last we saw of it, I think maybe was either probably not even last year's E3. I think it was the E3 before that. But there was a semi kind of tech demo showing off gameplay of it. Looks very Kingdom Hearts-ish, which is understandable because the game is being spearheaded by Tetsuya. Is it Tetsuya? Nomura, yeah. The guy who does all the Kingdom Hearts stuff. So I think Versus 13 looks like a lot of fun and it looks like a good game from, what I've seen of it. I'd love to see more and looking forward to that way more than what is it, 13.3, I guess, would be what the next numeric is.
I'm not even sure why they're doing that. I mean,
apparently 13.2 ended on a real cliffhanger.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of 13 to begin with, and from what I know, 13.2 didn't sell as well as 13. But I mean, I don't know. I just I feel like if they're gonna do this, they might as well just do it right and just fully remake Final Fantasy VII rather than just re-release the same game. I mean, because it's already on the PS3, the network.
Right. Yeah. So, speaking of which, when we start moving over to talking about the PS3, we have a sort of bit of a rumor going on right now with some leaked documents coming from FCC talking. It's an early patent document talking what may be a new slim PS3 might be on the way. It's slimmer than the first slim model of the PS3.
36% lighter and uses 34% less power than the 2006 launch model.
That's what the first iteration of the Slim. We don't obviously have any kind of like real detail on what this new model might be. The main point that everybody seems to hope for, though, is maybe it's cheaper.
Maybe.
The price point for the PS3 has always been the biggest obstacle for me getting behind Sony and that system.
Oh, yeah. When it first came out, it was like, what, 500, 400?
500, 600, something like that.
It was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, built-in Blu-ray player, but it still didn't overtake the market like they were hoping they did with the DVD player in the PS2.
Yeah, and I know it's probably also another point why, I mean, it certainly didn't help that, that console was so expensive, and that's probably also why Nintendo and maybe Microsoft got possibly slightly more business, was just because, you look at the PS3 and 360, and, most people will look at the price and be like, that one's a lot cheaper, so why would I buy this one?
There were reports all throughout, like the PS3's initial launch cycle, talking about how much money Sony was losing with each unit it was shipping, and just, if they could bring it down to the $200, $250 price point, and that would be fantastic to go along with how they're trying to do the connectivity with Vita and stuff like that. But supposedly, the earliest that we'll probably find out about this new supposed slim PS3 is most likely going to end up being at Gamescom this year, which is another pretty big trade show for a lot of gaming developers. It's less high profile than E3, arguably, but is a little bit more receptive towards the Japanese, especially Sony, for showing off not only Sony's gaming console, but all their TVs and other electronics as well. So, yeah, that happened.
Yeah, because no one in Japan likes the Xbox. Yeah. I mean, it's just from their sales record, the Microsoft does not have many customers in Japan.
No, the large portion of the Xbox install base is definitely in the Americas. Sony definitely has their death grasp in terms of the next gen console over in the Asian markets. I'm not even actually sure if Xboxes in general are actually being really marketed heavily anymore over in Japan. I could swear I remember hearing a story that they've stopped shipping a large portion of the models over there just because they don't sell that well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that was the same problem they were having with the original Xbox. No one in Japan really was buying it, and that was one of the reasons why they tried to make it more sleek and why they changed the color.
It's also part of the reason why the S controller actually came out for the original Xbox. The original Xbox's big monolith of a controller was actually marketed to be. It was actually too large for most gamers in general. I'll start by saying, but for the Japanese, just too big a controller.
Yeah, it was. Oh god, that thing was a monster, and it was so uncomfortable to use.
Yeah, I agree. I was so happy with the change over to the S controller, and that the 360 actually followed by using almost the exact same configuration.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So for our next story we have, which is probably one of the, I would argue one of the more interesting this week, is a recent ruling over in the European courts talking about digital game license ownership and the ability for the owner of the license to be able to resell them. Essentially, if you end up buying a digital game through an online service such as Origin or Steam or downloaded content even, that since you're now the owner of that license, and even if the seller has somewhere in their EULA saying that you cannot resell this, that you as an owner of this digital content can actually. Don't necessarily you can't necessarily do it through their service, and they don't, and the people over at Origin Steam, they don't have to put in the options to be able to allow this resale, but it's totally legal for people that want to be able to do it, at least over in the Europeans. That kind of ruling hasn't made over to the States yet, may not, but it's still something very interesting to look at.
Yeah, it really is, and it is nice for people that have downloaded a game, but they don't necessarily want to play it anymore. I just hope that doesn't lead to more and more game companies going completely digital just to maybe control the use of used game sales.
There are some online services right now that almost offer the functionality that would be able to do this kind of thing. Essentially, Steam, for example, has a way that you can gift game license to other people that you know that are on your like Steam's friends list, that it will deactivate the game for your account so that you can no longer play it, but they get a brand new version of the license and are able to use it. So all that's really missing is that you put an eBay auction up or somewhere on Craigslist saying, hey, you give me the money here and I will gift this license to you. And now you can sell off your old copy of the original Left 4 Dead, that kind of thing. I don't know if Origin offers the gifting service, but we might be seeing, if online services do decide to embrace this kind of thing, we might see something that's done just directly through the game service as opposed to having to use these outside sources. But I would imagine a lot of game services probably are not looking forward to this kind of ruling, as it could impact their business and their bottom line by doing this.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, most people that probably go to GameStop go to buy a used game. That's not necessarily true for every situation, but I mean, if you have 2 discs, both are in very good condition. One costs $60, the other costs $30. Most of the time, they're going to go for the used game.
It would basically take away a lot of incentive for people to buy games just brand new on Steam if somebody offers them used.
Right, and GameStop's policy, if you buy a used game, none of that money is going towards the developers or the publishers themselves, which is why they implemented the online passcodes and all the stuff that people generally don't like.
Be pretty obnoxious to start seeing more DLC type stuff like that offered through things like Steam and Origin for buying brand new. I guess it wouldn't be that far, that outlandish a notion to expect something like that, especially if this resale for digital content. I'm curious though to see if not just full games, but things like DLC campaigns, hats, maps, that kind of stuff actually end up getting sold as well to other people through this. And once again, though, to reiterate, this is totally not in the States yet. This is something that was totally ruled over in the European courts. My guess is that it probably will either take a really long time or just not happen at all, that kind of ruling would actually happen in the States. Just people like EA or businesses like EA, and as much as we love Valve, I don't think Valve wants to see this happen either. I think it sort of becomes a calculating nightmare for them, even though this is still just pretty much all upside for the consumer.
Yeah, they'd actually be forced to have to count to 3 Oh no.
Did you hear the other thing, though, with talking about digital distribution this week and EA saying that they wanted to move totally towards digital distribution in the future? That they wanted that to be 100% of their market.
Yeah, again, for a company like EA, that would definitely solve their problem as far as controlling used game sales, because right now they already have several systems set up. Project $10, releasing DLC the first day that a game is released. All these methods they try to do to prevent gamers, or at least give them incentives not to buy games used. If everything is digital distribution for them, then they wouldn't have to worry about that anymore.
That definitely would cut down on the used game sales, of course, assuming that the story that we just past talked about doesn't come to pass for the U.S. Unfortunately,
Right.
when they were talking about it in the interview, they were mainly looking at it from a sort of typical company standpoint, unfortunately, saying that obviously if they went to being 100% digital, as in not even offer disc-based games anymore, like I'm not talking about like maybe next year or something like that, but ways down in the future when everybody has reliable internet or what have you, that that all they would do is just basically sell through Origin or on PSN or Xbox Live or something like that. They talk about how it would cut down on their costs for having to put out a game, that kind of thing. They wouldn't have to worry about parts of marketing, advertising, obviously shipping the actual physical game, that kind of thing, and dealing with GameStop. And unfortunately, there's like no mention in the article at all talking about passing on the savings to the gamer themselves. The idea that we'd still be buying the whole $60 game from EA or what have you at that same price without even, no instruction booklet anymore, no pretty green or a case or anything like that. Which is really unfortunate because when you look at like Valve, they definitely pass their savings on to the consumer by offering all kinds of deals and just generally being able to buy the game cheaper on Steam.
Yeah, but I mean, then again, EA did say they were looking at a free-to-play model for their games in the future, so who knows?
I guess it's obviously too soon to say, but it's always interesting to speculate about. So the last thing that we've got to talk about this week, and which is actually probably going to take a sizable amount of time considering what big Resident Evil nerds me and or DJ and I both are, is that the RE6 demo finally got activated for people that had copies of Dragon's Dogma.
Had copies. A lot of people were upset because they sold their Dragon's Dogma disc once they got the paper that said here's the code to download the demo, and then they realized they couldn't play it.
And they actually have to have the disc in the drive too. It's not actually like a download or anything like that.
Yep. And installing the disc doesn't count, apparently.
Yeah. Of course not. I mean, you've never been able to play any of the Xbox games purely off of just install from the disc. You always had to have the disc in the drive somewhere. But
Right. I guess the people that didn't get to play it aren't at a total loss. They did say the demo would be publicly available in September, but they'll just have to wait 2 months.
Yeah. But there are all sorts of sites right now showing playthroughs. Why don't you talk about what's actually included in the demo?
So basically, it's a little chunk, it seems like, from the beginning of each of the 3 campaigns, from Leon and Elena and Tall Oaks to Chris and Piers in China and Jake and Sherry in, I don't know, Europe, looks like.
Somewhere in Europe, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's obviously all the segments are co-op, just like the game is planned to be. They all look to be about 15-20 minutes worth of gameplay. You can choose which character you get to play as. All the menus that I've seen from the videos that I've looked at, the co-op option seems to be grayed out, so I have no idea if you can actually do co-op online or, with the drop-in split screen type thing. I don't know if that's...
Yeah, they didn't really make that very clear, but the customization that they are looking to add in Resident Evil 6 does look pretty cool. Now you can change your laser dot color.
Yeah, purple lasers. But as far as the demo goes, it seems to be pretty full and rich in content, which honestly, for the RE series, it's not that big of a surprise. I can remember when the RE5 demo came out. I can remember downloading that off of some Japanese site, installing it on writing it onto a CDR and having like a 15-minute load time or something like that just to play through the first part with Chris and Sheva. But there's lots and lots of content, obviously, included in this demo. And it really reinforces what Capcom has been trying to push with what they talked about with all three of these different campaigns, with the RE6, all playing in a very different kind of fashion.
Yeah, and I definitely, when I was watching the gameplay demos, I could definitely get a sense of that. Something that worried me when I was watching that gameplay video with Leon at E3 was that it really seemed like over-the-top action, and I assume that's towards the end of the campaign, but with at least the beginnings to each of these campaigns, you could definitely tell there was a different feel for each one. Chris is being like, the Resident Evil 5 gameplay, it's run and gun shooting mutant zombies. Leon's was definitely more of a slower pace, not necessarily survival horror, but you're not exactly going to be running around shooting everything that moves. And Jake seems like it's going to be a more reminiscent of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis with the Ustanunk constantly chasing you throughout the campaign.
Right. Looking at some of the commentary that I've seen pertaining to some of these videos, we have obviously Leon's campaign, like we said, being very much sort of called back to the original RE with sort of slower and more horror centric. IGN commented on the game sort of taking control away from you to sort of present parts of the story here and there and sort of ratchet up the tension a little bit. I think it takes like a good 15 minutes or so before you end up actually finding any enemy in Leon's demo campaign to actually fire upon. And right after that, all you got to do is like run, essentially, where, it's sort of reinforcing ammo is limited, that kind of thing, and you sort of have to pick your battles.
Yeah, it's it certainly seems like it's more of a definitely supposed to be a scarier experience, possibly more like maybe Dead Space, because it's certainly not survival horror. You could definitely tell that you're probably going to get plenty of ammunition along the way, although you're probably not going to have automatic weapons like you will in Chris's campaign.
Mm-hmm. No, throwing rocket launchers into the eyes of our greatest foe or something like that.
Probably not.
And then, of course, like I said, going to Chris and to Jake's campaign, it's just way more action, high ratchet kind of thing. And but even still, all the presentation elements are very impressive from what we've been able to see. The cinematics, definitely, especially Chris's, for example, was really impressive to me. Some of the motion cap, even the voice acting, which has always been a sore spot for for the whole Resident Evil series, seems pretty good.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. I actually thought that beginning scene of Chris's was pretty funny. It was just like, alcoholic Chris, telling the bartender, "I'll tell you when I've had enough. Pour me another one."
A bit stereotypical, and then of course everybody in the bar is a BSA agent or whatever. But it is still entertaining, and it was interesting to, like I said, to be able to revisit that character in that fashion.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Resident Evil's never been a series with a necessarily subtle story, or it's always been over the top. And I mean, you could take it for what it is, but I thought it was pretty funny and entertaining, and certainly the gameplay sections look pretty solid. It looks like they actually did improve the AI a bit with your co-op partner, although there was one part in Leon's campaign where it looked like Leon's partner got stuck for some reason.
It took a long time to come to the door to open it with the co-op action. Yeah. Let's see, another thing is sort of interesting. The HUD for each campaign is also unique pertaining to the campaign. For example, Leon has like a smartphone that sort of shows all his statistics. Chris's is a little bit more military-esque, sort of stereotypical, but and I like that sort of design element on its own. A lot of information also on that HUD too, talking about the new capsules that you have now in your inventory. They're all shown there.
Yeah, it looks like you won't have or you won't be nearly as restricted when holding items. I did notice that there was a lack of collectibles, at least in the demo anyway. I didn't see any parts where the characters were picking up gold or any kind of currency, and it didn't look like, at least from what I saw, there were any sort of statistics on the guns. So I'm wondering if they're just taking more of an actiony route and less about upgrading your guns and more just about you pick up a weapon and there you go to town.
There are chess pieces actually in the game that...
Oh, really?
Yeah, they have something called skill points attached to them, and they come in amounts of about 50 or 100. I didn't see anywhere in the game where you could spend these skill points. Either they... When you think skill points, you obviously think of actual character progression as opposed to weapon upgrades. So, I don't know, maybe the reaction commands or something that you upgrade for each character or something like that. Not entirely sure.
Here's hoping for a return of the Merchant Stranger.
I seriously doubt he'll actually ever be gracing a game again. But, obviously, I've loved being able to do upgrade statistics on weapons since RE4, RE5. I hope that comes back. But being able to, invest skill points is sort of like an interesting option that I'd like to see. Once again, it would be kind of a strange conceit to think about where you actually put stores in this game, but you probably think a little bit too hard when you do that.
It'll probably be set up like Resident Evil 5. Between missions, you can buy stuff and upgrade. It is nice to note, though, they did say when Resident Evil 6 comes out, you won't have to beat the campaigns anymore to unlock Mercenaries mode. It'll be unlocked from the start.
Cool. Let's see. Obviously, in these videos, too, we get to see a little bit more of the revamped sort of control system. Obviously, moving and shooting is the big thing that everybody's been asking for forever, and now you got it. You can move while reloading as well, which is great. And we also have these new sort of dive commands, too, to be able to get out of range of the zombie grabbing you or whatever, and actually being able to shoot from when you're on the ground, which is seems like it'll add some interesting sort of gameplay to it.
Yeah, it actually did remind me a bit of Left 4 Dead, and I was wondering why no other games have really done this, such as Gears 4 or even Mass Effect 3 multiplayer. But yeah, it seems like in Resident Evil 6 now, when you go down, you aren't just sort of waddling around waiting for your partner to come and revive you. You can actually bring out your gun and keep shooting until they are able to get you up.
Yeah, I saw that, to be able to sort of defend yourself while you're waiting to get shot with whatever. But you can actually still even just make the option, though, to be able to leap to the side and onto the ground, and from the ground to make shots to get out of the way, which... I'm sure there'll be all sorts of boss swipes that you have to dodge by doing that. Let's see, what other stuff it was in the demo?
The customization options definitely still look pretty cool. The laser dots you can change the color of. I didn't think they were going to let you do this, but you can actually turn the crosshairs off so that if for whatever reason you see them as intrusive, you can go back to Resident Evil 4 or 5, and you'll just have the laser dot as your crosshair.
They also have the option of which shoulder that you can look over when you're playing the game. You can make the switch from over the right to over the left, which is really great, because I remember playing through RE5, playing as Sheva. I hated going over her shoulder as opposed to the shoulder that's presented for Chris.
Yeah, it definitely did take getting used to, but it is nice for people that absolutely cannot stand, the left-handed view.
And let's see. All the music that's presented in the game sounds great. Sound effects are great. Facial animation, voice acting. Thank God we've got Nolan North in Resident Evil game I was afraid there was a franchise that Nolan North wasn't going to participate in.
Who does he play as?
He's Jake's voice actor, and for people that don't know, Nolan North has been voice acting countless numbers of video game characters. Probably his most famous is Nathan Drake from the Uncharted games.
Yeah, and it looks like Chris and Leon's voice actor come back to reprise their roles.
I'm still going to argue with you that Leon's is different.
I don't know. He sounds the same to me, but I don't know. I guess we'll actually know when the game comes out.
Yep. So I guess that's all the details that I can really think of pertaining to the RE6 demo. Obviously, if you have any kind of interest in Resident Evil, go check out some of the videos that are up on IGN, Game Informer, or go out and pick up a copy of Dragon's Dogma. Perfectly fun game, and obviously a great demo to boot.
I will say one more thing though. That music, it was certainly good and very fitting. Didn't it sound like it belonged in a Spider-Man or a Batman movie?
Definitely
did it
a
sound
little
like
less.
That to you? I thought it did.
A little more actiony, a little less horror than normal, but I still liked it quite a bit.
Yeah, it was good. I do like whoever composed it.
All right, so I think that is all that I've got for this week. DJ, you got anything else you want to throw in, or?
Nope, that's about it.
All right, cool. Well, still need to come up with a name for this sometime. If you're listening, feel free to leave comments on wherever I post the MP3 or video at for probably on YouTube, Facebook, that kind of thing. I hope to get an email account set up soon, as soon as I actually come up with a name for what exactly I want this to be. But yeah, so that's all we got for this time. I'm your host, Kevin Harrison.
And I'm DJ.
And we'll see you next time.